Look at him, eating whatever he wants, never gaining a pound, while I'm stuck with the boring special and can't lose an ounce.
How's your lunch, man?
Amazing. Yours?
So good.
Oh, I'm so happy for you.
Cool, buddy.
Weight loss isn't fair, but Mochi Health is. The affordable GLP-1 source that can fix your frustration with food.
So, same time next week?
No!
Definitely.
And your friends. Learn more at joinmochi.com. Mochi members have access to licensed physicians and nutritionists. Results may vary.
You know that thing where you get an amazing pair of shoes at a really great price and want to tell everyone about it? Yeah, so do we. Here at Designer Shoe Warehouse, we'll give you something to brag about. Like the latest styles from brands you love, or the trends everyone's obsessing over, or shoes that make you feel like, well, you. So go ahead, show off a little. Find shoes that get you at prices that get your budget. Head to your DSW store or DSW.com today. DSW, let us surprise you.
Voices for Justice is a podcast that uses adult language and discusses sensitive and potentially triggering topics, including violence, abuse, and murder. This podcast may not be appropriate for younger audiences. All parties are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Some names have been changed or omitted per their request or for safety purposes. Listener discretion is advised. My name is Sarah Turney, and this is Voices for Justice. Today, I'm discussing the case of Rachel Hansen. At about 7 a.m. on June 4th, 2022, Todd Hansen answered his front door to just about the worst situation any parent can experience. It was the Gilbert Police Department. They tell him that his 19-year-old daughter Rachel had been shot in her apartment, and despite doctors working on her for hours, she was gone. This is the case of Rachel Hansen. Rachel, unfortunately, did not have the easiest start in life. She experienced a lot of trauma before she was fostered by the Hansen family on Valentine's Day in 2009. Rachel was only 6, but the Hansens had previously adopted one of her siblings, so they were more than happy to take her in and officially adopt her just 3 months later. Rachel would later get her official adoption date tattooed on her arm in Roman numerals to commemorate this. Family life was new to Rachel, and she was used to taking care of herself, but she absolutely flourished. Like a lot of kids who experience trauma, Rachel understood struggle and was extremely kind and caring to others. At the age of 10, she was known to walk her wagon around the block, asking neighbors for any spare food they could donate to those in need. She was also fundamental in raising funds for a friend of hers who developed a serious medical condition. Rachel was also just tough. She loved sports and was the only girl on her 8th grade football team. But what she really loved was horses. One day, when Rachel was 12, she was sitting on the fence that ran alongside their 1-acre property in Gilbert, Arizona, and she just kind of thought out loud that she would love to have a horse. So Kim and Todd Hansen did what I think most parents would if they could. They got her a horse named Dash. The Hansens had fostered and adopted many children previously, and they knew the power of equine therapy, specifically for children who had experienced trauma. And while they'd gotten out of the business of horses at this point, they started back up again, just for Rachel. And Rachel was so excited that she didn't even wait for an adult to help her mount her horse. Instead, she climbed up on the fence and just got on. By age 14, Rachel was giving riding lessons to younger children. And by 16, she started her own business, riding, training, finding, and selling horses for her clients. By 19, she had her own apartment in Gilbert, got her real estate license, and planned to add selling horse properties to her long list of ambitions within the equestrian world. Rachel's mother, Kim Hansen, was kind enough to speak with me for this episode, and she told me that's just who Rachel was. She was extremely ambitious and extremely kind.
She was just very active in so many things, so involved in everything she could be involved in because she had such a compassionate heart for animals, but also for people. So she was a go-getter, always wanting to be involved in whatever was going on and not do it just a little bit. do it 110%, which is why she graduated from high school early and had already started a business and just was ready to move forward in life. She didn't have time for high school and the nonsense and having being around peers that she didn't like what they were doing and teachers that would tell her to do things she didn't want to do. She just was very independent, and she was able to graduate with honors a year early. So obviously she was very intelligent and just very, very full of life and ready to just start her adventure.
In addition to these ambitions and professional adventures, if you will, Rachel was also about to embark on another adventure, marriage, and maybe, eventually, starting her own family. Rachel got engaged in the spring of 2022 at the age of 19 to a man named Jomet Bailey. They took their engagement photos on the bridge overlooking Canyon Lake. It was one of Rachel's favorite places. While Rachel didn't have the best start in life, she was definitely determined to realize every single one of her dreams, and was well on her way. In December 2021, Rachel got an offer she couldn't refuse: training horses on a ranch in Queen Creek, Arizona, and living in the casita on the property. Queen Creek is only about 30 minutes from her family in Gilbert, so she'd still be nearby and get to roll out of bed and be right at work. It was really a no-brainer. The only issue was Rachel's apartment. But Rachel was a problem solver. She went to Facebook and quickly found someone willing to sublease it. Now, Rachel didn't know this woman, but Kim said that she seemed like a good, responsible person. So Rachel moved out to the ranch, this woman moved in, and things seemed to be going fine. Until they stopped paying rent. This apparently went on for a few months. So when Rachel's employment ended at the ranch in May 2022, she decided it was time to ask this woman to leave so she could move back in.
She had been living on a horse ranch in Queen Creek, training horses there, and she had her mare out there. And then when that employment ended, she had been, as you say, subleasing an apartment that she had rented a year before in June of 21. And she had lived there for about 6 months until the beginning of December. And then she had this offer to go train and work horses at the ranch and live in the casita on the property so that she would be right there close to the horses all the time. So when that offer came up and she wanted to take it, she subleased her apartment to a young woman that she found on Facebook and seemed like a decent person. And so they started that agreement. Well, when her employment ended at the end of May of 22, she asked the people who apparently, I didn't know this until she told me just at that last couple of weeks of May, that they had not paid rent for a couple months. And so she was having to pay that to keep the lease good, but then also asked them to move out very quickly because she wanted to move back in after she left.
Despite the tenant not paying rent, it does appear that being asked to move out did come as a surprise, and she wasn't exactly thrilled with the quick transition. The apartment also just reeked of weed, and the apartment complex was getting complaints that a lot of people were coming in and out. It's never been confirmed that anyone was selling drugs out of the apartment or anything like that, but there was tension for obvious reasons. It was just a bad situation.
So they did move out in a hurry on maybe like a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then she started moving things into the apartment on Thursday. And she actually spent Thursday night in the apartment. Really, all she had in there was her mattress and box springs of her king size bed. She hadn't even put it together yet. and then just some clothes and a few things in the refrigerator. She was in the process of moving all of her belongings back into her apartment. So she spent Thursday night there and Friday night, and it was Friday night, Saturday morning that she was killed.
Rachel officially moved back in on Wednesday, June 1st, 2022. But like Kim said, she really began moving her things in on Thursday. At this point, she really didn't have anything in the apartment and didn't even have a chance to change the locks. But that first night, there was a strange incident. A man entered the apartment using a key. This episode of Voices for Justice is brought to you by Quince. I've been trying to be more intentional about what I wear each day. I'm leaning into pieces that feel effortless, comfortable, and still put together, and Quince has been my go-to. The fabrics feel elevated, the fits are flattering, and everything just works without overthinking it. They use premium materials like 100% European linen, organic cotton, and ultra-soft denim. And the best part? Everything is priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. They work directly with ethical factories and cut out the middlemen, so you're paying for quality and craftsmanship, not brand markup. I recently just ordered their tiered linen dress, of course in black. I wanted to pair it with one of my favorite pairs of brown wedges. The problem was, I didn't have a brown purse. So I got that from Quince too. It's one of my favorite outfits. It's easy, effortless, and feels amazing, especially as we're getting a little bit warmer here in Phoenix. Refresh your everyday with luxury you'll actually use. Head to quince.com/justice for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. That's QUINCE.com/justice for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/justice. This episode of Voices for Justice is sponsored by Chewy. If you have pets, you probably know about Chewy, and you also know that when they say that they have everything you need to keep your pet happy and healthy, they're not messing around. To keep them happy, Chewy has over 100,000 products from all the brands my pets love at prices I love. To keep them healthy, Chewy offers pet prescriptions, pet insurance, telehealth vet visits, and they're even rolling out vet clinics across the country. I've been shopping with them for a very long time. And in addition to the auto-ship feature that gets the dog's food to them every single month, I also love to experiment with different treats. But I'm a bit picky. For me, it has to be high quality with simple ingredients. I recently picked up treats from Shepherd Boy Farms that are 100% just chicken breast. Popcorn and Heber are already obsessed. Chewy has everything you need to keep your pet happy and healthy. And right now, you can save $20 on your first order and get free shipping by going to chewpanions.chewy.com/Sarah E. Turney. That's chewpanions.chewy.com/Sarah E. Turney to save $20 on your first order with free shipping. chewpanions.chewy.com/Sarah E. Turney. Minimum purchase required. New customers only. Terms and conditions apply. See site for complete details.
Insurance isn't one size fits all. That's why customers have enjoyed Progressive's Name Your Price tool for years now. With the Name Your Price tool, you tell them what you want to pay, and they'll show you options that fit your budget. So whether you're picking out your first policy or just looking for something that works better for you and your family, they make it easy to see your options. Visit Progressive.com. Find a rate that works for you with the Name Your Price tool. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
Whoever came into the apartment had a key, and came in for some unknown reason, set a jar of dill pickles down on the kitchen counter, went in the room, and Rachel woke up to this person, a man, looking down at her. And of course, she screamed. He startled and ran out the front door of the apartment. And I asked her Friday morning when I talked to her on the phone and she was telling me this. I asked her why she did not call the police. And she said she was so stunned. The first thing she did was call Jomette, and he came right over to be there with her. And they just tried to talk about it and figure out. And she just thought that it must have been a friend of the people that had subleased from her, because they had a key to the apartment. And so she didn't feel threatened by that. when the person realized it wasn't the other girl, they took off right away. So she wasn't as afraid about that. She just thought it was odd. And then she and Joe met, changed the lock on the apartment door so nobody else that might have a key could come in. It was around 4 in the morning, I think, 3 or 4 in the morning. And then the other thing about the lock is that because it was so early in the morning, Home Depot or any place like that that would sell a door handle with a lock, nothing was open to go buy a lock. So they went back to his dad's house and got a lock out of the garage that just had been taken off a bathroom door and installed that on the apartment door. It didn't have a key to unlock it. It only had the dead bolt at the top, so it couldn't be locked from the outside. It could only be locked from the inside.
So Rachel just brushes this off as a mistake, but does what she can to immediately change the locks. It obviously wasn't a perfect solution, but it would work for now until she could coordinate with the apartment complex to get them changed again. Unfortunately, that never ended up happening. Within about 24 hours, at 2 a.m. on Saturday, June 4th, Rachel called 911 and said that someone she did not know broke into her apartment and shot her. She gives the 911 operator her address and asks them to hurry. She says that she's bleeding. The operator asks her if there's someone else with her in the apartment, but Rachel says no. Whoever did this left. They then ask Rachel if she has something nearby she can use to apply pressure to her wounds, like a clean cloth, shirt, or a towel. But Rachel says that she doesn't have anything. The operator then asks her to keep talking, and Rachel responds that she can't. About 3 minutes into the call, the Gilbert Police Department and Fire Department report issues mapping Rachel's address. But the Fire Department finds it quickly, and both departments arrive less than 2 minutes later. So they get to Rachel about 5 minutes after she dialed 911. In one body cam video, you can hear officers telling Rachel to stay with them. From here, she's rushed to Chandler Regional Medical Center, where surgeons work on her for hours. She'd been lying down when she was shot in her lower left abdomen, and the bullet exited through the top of her right shoulder, hitting vital organs. Despite their efforts, they couldn't save Rachel, and she was pronounced dead in the early morning hours of June 4th, just 8 days before her 20th birthday. The Gilbert Police Department got to the Hansens' door around 7 a.m. to relay the news. Kim was out of town, babysitting her grandkids in Indiana, so Todd had to tell her over the phone that Rachel was gone. The Gilbert PD immediately began going door to door in the Redstone at Santan Village apartment complex. Many people were extremely cooperative and allowed police to enter and search their homes, but no one reported hearing or seeing anything. Rachel's neighbor, who was right on the other side of the wall, said that she had no idea anything happened until police came knocking at her door. Investigators also discovered that while it appeared that the apartment complex had security cameras, they were all fake, and asks for video footage from personal cameras around the complex didn't seem to turn up any new information either. Nothing was missing from Rachel's apartment. No weapon or DNA was recovered from the scene, and there were no witnesses. There was also no damage to the door frame of the apartment, and the door itself was unlocked. Whoever did this walked in, shot Rachel once, and left. Naturally, investigators began to look at motive. If this wasn't burglary, who may have wanted to hurt Rachel? Of course, they learn about the tension with the woman subleasing the apartment and the break-in. It definitely seems like the most obvious lead to follow at this point. I mean, she was upset, someone came into the apartment just the night before, and it seems like a lot of people were used to coming in and out of the apartment before this quick transition. They had to follow up. And the Hansens also notify the Gilbert PD of another situation. They'd had some trouble getting Rachel's horse Dash back from the owners of the ranch that she'd been working for. After Rachel moved out of the casita, the owners wanted the Hansens to pay $5,000, saying that they were owed this. After Rachel was killed, the owners of the ranch asked for an additional $2,500, citing unpaid vet bills for Dash. At this point, the Hansens just want whatever part of Rachel they can get back, so they paid the $7,500, and the owners of the ranch released Dash back to the Hansens. So the Gilbert PD gets to work investigating this potential lead. They also request warrants for Rachel's social media accounts and her cell phone, and they discover that there was another person who wasn't happy with Rachel, the father of Rachel's fiancé. Kim told me that she doesn't believe he's ever been interviewed by police, but she knows he had a negative relationship with Rachel, and according to some reporting, texted her and threatened to shoot and kill her if she ever stepped on his property again.
He, I don't believe, has been interviewed. He had a very negative relationship with Rachel, really beginning only in April of 22. And at one point was physically aggressive towards her, at which time she called Gilbert PD, and they actually made a report, and it came out in the chronology report because she had called and they came, and he had threatened to kill her. So that is known. That's a fact. There were some disagreements involving cars and keys and all sorts of things. It was kind of a mess. It was a large family. They were the parents were going through a divorce. There was a lot of tension, and being Jomette's fiance, Rachel kind of found herself in the middle of it. And he did not like that. And so in April, there were a couple incidents, but only one where the police were involved. So that is when the relationship turned very bad.
What they did to your family, you're lucky to make it out alive.
Streaming on Peacock.
These men are going to come after me. Taking them out is my only chance.
Put a bullet in her head.
From the co-creator of Ozark.
Looks like a family was running drugs.
Execution-style killing, it's rare for the keys. And it leads on who they might have been running for.
The cartel killed my family. I'm gonna kill them. All of them.
MIA. Streaming now. Only on Peacock.
Where is Daredevil?
A minor.
Don't miss the return of Marvel Television's Daredevil Born Again.
So what's next?
I feel liberated.
We're gonna take this city back.
Over-medicated. In an all-new season, now streaming only on Disney+.
They're hunting us. It's time we started hunting them.
I can work with that.
This should be tons of fun.
Marvel Television's Daredevil Born Again, now streaming only on Disney+.
As investigators begin conducting interviews and sifting through leads, they pretty quickly come to dead end after dead end. They say that they've interviewed everyone they could find that could be related to Rachel's apartment or the woman subleasing it from her. They tell the Hansens that the owner of the ranch had no motive to harm Rachel. While they were asking for money to release her horse Dash, it seems that they had enough money in the bank for this transaction to not be a likely motive for murder. As far as Rachel's fiancé's father, like I told you earlier, according to Kim, he's never been interviewed. After Rachel's murder, her fiancé Jomette moved in with the Hansens for a few months. Kim says he's like a son to them. When he got Rachel's engagement ring back, he sized it up to fit him so he could wear it himself. And he went to Canyon Lake Bridge, where they'd gotten their engagement photos taken every single week for a year to leave a dozen roses for Rachel. But in June 2023, he brought the roses to Rachel's parents and gave them back her ring. Even after he moved out of the Hansens' home, he'd go back to have dinner with them almost every single night. At this point, there's just no evidence to point to him being involved in Rachel's murder in any way. About a year after Rachel was killed, the Gilbert PD said that they'd exhausted all leads, and the case documents released to the public reflected that the investigation is inactive, though the police department denies this. They've released very little to the public, but again, they say that they've exhausted all leads, and that Rachel's case remains open and active. The Hansens have been pretty outspoken about their disappointment in the investigation. They've since hired a private investigator, but there's been little progress in the case, and as it stands, no persons of interest or suspects have ever been named. So what happened to Rachel Hansen? Well, like I told you earlier, like is a theme in this case, not much is being released to the public, or even Rachel's family. They won't even release the audio of Rachel's 911 call so they can hear her last words. But according to Rachel and that 911 call, she didn't know who killed her, which leaves a few possibilities. Kim feels it's incredibly unlikely that this was a random act of violence, and that does make sense to me. Of course, sometimes there is no rhyme or reason to why people kill, but out of all the possibilities, someone walking in, going to Rachel's room, shooting her, and then running away completely at random feels the least likely. The Gilbert PD did look into the possibility that Rachel's murder might be tied to a local group of teenagers called the Gilbert Goons. They're responsible for a long list of assaults in the Gilbert and Queen Creek areas, including an assault that resulted in the death of a teenager named Preston Lord. But their string of violent crimes is believed to have begun in the fall of 2022, and it typically involved hand-to-hand combat or the use of a vehicle, not a gun. In the end, the Gilbert PD does not believe there's any connection to Rachel's case. It seems possible that someone came into the apartment looking for the woman who had previously subleased it from Rachel. Kim says the two bear a striking resemblance, and since Rachel was shot lying down, it's possible that whoever did this planned on killing the other woman and not Rachel, and they just couldn't tell the difference. But again, investigators said that they've exhausted all leads here, and haven't named any persons of interest or suspects. Not the owners of the ranch, not the woman subleasing the apartment, any of the Gilbert Goons, or the man who is going to become Rachel's father-in-law. Kim and her entire family are obviously left devastated without Rachel. They're doing everything they can to raise awareness for her case, including starting a dog rescue in her honor. It's something Rachel always wanted to do with Kim, but they never seem to find the time.
Our involvement with rescue kind of started during COVID because we needed something happy in our lives, and puppies always make people happy. And so Rachel suggested that we foster a mother dog with several puppies. So we did, and then we continued to foster for different rescues where we take in a litter of puppies or mama dog and have puppies. And Rachel just loved it so much. She just would have a hard day out riding and training and then come home and literally fall on a large dog bed and have puppies all over on top of her, and she'd curl up and go to sleep with them. So she just loved it so much. And she always asked if we could start a rescue because we disagreed with a few things that were done differently than we chose to. And she went as far as trying to come up with a name and a logo and all sorts of things. And I just always said to her, "Thank you, sweetheart, for your vote of confidence, but absolutely not." I just wanted to care for puppies. I didn't want to do the 501 and the paperwork and all the business aspect of a rescue. So then when Rachel was so suddenly and tragically killed, I hmm, I spent the first year just grieving terribly, obviously, um, and still am. But after a year, we never stopped having puppies. We still always had puppies, kind of for a couple different rescues, and then people would just ask if I would take them. So we never had an empty home. But I decided I really needed to honor her wish at that point, um, both for her, but also for me, because I needed to do something to keep me busy. and keep my head in the game. So I decided that was the time that we would start a rescue, and we would name it after Rachel. So so it's it's called Rachel's Rescue, and we don't really have a logo. It's just her picture. It can be found everywhere just under Rachel's Rescue 2022 because that's when she was killed. Um, so we're on Facebook, Instagram. Our puppies are on Pet Finder and Adopt a Pet, and we have a website, but in all honesty, the website is very difficult to maintain or keep updated. It does have all of the information about her case and all the recordings, newscasts, everything that we've done is on there. But to keep it updated with puppies is next to impossible because there's such a turnover rate. I am proud to say that in the year and a half that we've had the rescue, we have had about 300 puppies adopted.
That's actually how I found Kim and Rachel's case. After my dog Marley passed away at the age of 18, I wasn't sure I'd ever get another dog again. But my 11-year-old dog Popcorn was really feeling the grief of losing his best friend. Then someone sent me a Pet Finder link. It was a puppy whose litter had been found in the woods of Heber, Arizona. I wasn't ready for another dog, and I was sure I would leave without one. But there was something about this puppy. I wanted to see him, and I made the trip out to Gilbert. I pulled up to the house, saw the puppy, and of course I fell in love, and I told Kim I wanted to adopt him. After I signed the paperwork, Kim asked me if it was okay to put a flyer in the folder featuring her daughter Rachel's unsolved case, and that's when she explained to me why she started the rescue. Of course, I said yes, I'd be happy to help, and as we began to talk about Rachel, my sister, and unsolved crime, we both got really emotional and knew that we were meant to meet. Not only so I could adopt our new emotional support puppy, Heber, but to support each other. Which brings me right to our call to action. Kim said that the best way to support her and Rachel's case is to keep her name in the media, to share her case. Ask your favorite creator to cover it. And she encourages everyone to be inquisitive, ask questions, and hopefully come up with new avenues that lead to the case being solved. She also says that if you're in Arizona and are looking for a dog to adopt, she'd love to find a good home for the many she has available and honor Rachel's legacy. As a reminder, Rachel Hansen was killed in her apartment in Gilbert, Arizona on June 4th, 2022. If you have any information about her case, please call Silent Witness at 480-WITNESS. You can remain anonymous. And as of recording this episode, the reward for information leading to an arrest is up to $15,000. But as always, thank you, I love you, and I'll talk to you next time. Voices for Justice is hosted and produced by me, Sarah Turney, and is a Voices for Justice media original. If you love what we do here, please don't forget to follow, rate, and review the show in your podcast player. It's an easy and free way to help us and help more people find these cases in need of justice. Welcome to the Secret After Show. the studio door is open, and our emotional support puppies are in the room, including Heber from Rachel's rescue. Now, let's just skip right onto the case. I wasn't sure if I should include that in the main episode, but it just felt like one of those things that I had to. Like, that day and finding Heber and finding Kim and finding Rachel's case, like I told you, like me and Kim decided it really does feel meant to be. And maybe that's a little crunchy for some of you. I feel it, and if you don't feel the same, that's okay. But it was just like a crazy set of circumstances that led me there. Now, I actually had been recommended Rachel's case in the past, and I put it on my list to investigate, and I hadn't gotten to it yet. I didn't realize until after I adopted Heber that she was already on my list. But it was just, insane. And I am so happy to report that during my interview with Kim, I was able to reintroduce her to Heber, who was known as Nidus at that time. And it was just a really nice reunion. And as much as I wish our circumstances didn't bring us together, this rescue shouldn't have to exist. Rachel should have never died. There's some comfort in finding, for lack of a better word, friendship or companionship, just somebody who knows what you're going through. And it was just insane. I'm telling you, I'm driving to Gilbert and I'm like, I love this puppy. He's so cute. I want to go see him, but I don't know. I'm not ready for another puppy. And I drive up and, by the way, it's an amazing rescue. I didn't include that part in the main episode. Me and Kim did talk about it. It just felt not exactly relevant to the case, so that's why those things go here. But I drove up, and there's a open air cage, like a gate. How do you describe it? Like a playpen, for all these puppies, and it's like the most gorgeous green lawn, and there's fruit trees, and the puppies get to go run back and play with a peacock. It was like the best environment. So one, I was already like, wow, this is an amazing rescue. Like, I don't normally just like go to random, and I told Kim this, I don't normally just like go to random people's houses. I'm in true crime. I've experienced some trauma myself. And usually I'm extremely cautious. And for some reason, the night before, I emailed her and was like, I want to see this dog. And she was like, okay, come see him. And I drove out the next day. It's a little bit of a drive from Phoenix. And I was like, I don't know. I don't like the drive. But I got there and I saw him. I fell in love. And I was like, give me this dog. What do I have to do to adopt this dog and take him home today? It's a very easy process, by the way. If you are in the Arizona area, Gilbert area, specifically, and are looking at dogs to rescue, to adopt, check out Rachel's rescue. It was so easy. I signed the paperwork, agreeing that I will love him and take care of him and all that stuff. And then, like I said in the episode, Kim's like, oh, and by the way, do you mind if I put this flyer in here? And I immediately see it. It's branded Silent Witness, so it's like a logo I'm very familiar with. And I was like, oh my God. She puts it in, and I'm like, yeah, of course, and, I would love to help. I'm actually in true crime. I started because I have a missing sister. It's still, technically unsolved, blah, blah, blah. Like, how can I help? We started talking about Season of Justice. I was like, you have to apply for a billboard, and we both just got so emotional and we were like, this was meant to be. This was meant to be. And I didn't realize it at that time. Like, I knew Heber's approximate age. But when I got home and I started, just like looking over the paperwork a little bit more, I looked at his birthday and it's August 20th, which is a hard day for me. If you guys don't remember, that's the day my dad got arrested in 2020. And I called it Justice for Alyssa Day. So when he was acquitted in 2023 and August 20th came back around, it was devastating. It was like I created another bad day for myself, my mom's birthday, Alyssa's, you just have those dates in your life where you're like, this is going to be a sad day because it's going to remind me of sad things. And so when I saw that, I was like, wow, this is my chance to kind of like reclaim that day as a good day. as Heber's birthday. So between like whatever that brought me out to Gilbert, Arizona, which I don't think I'd ever been to before, to be totally honest, whatever brought me out there to go see Heber, to meet Kim, to share these stories with each other, and then for Heber to be born on August 20th, a Justice for Alyssa Day. Just unreal. Unreal, you guys. Unreal. So, needless to say, that's why I picked the case. Right then and there, I was like, do you want me to feature her case? Do you want me to connect you with other creators? How can I help you? And she was like, yes, please cover it. And so I did. And, I know that Kim is listening, and I really hope that I did Rachel's case justice. Now, let's talk about a few other things. I could talk about Heber all day, but let's talk about a few other things I had on my list. And the first one is, I guess I just wanted to say why I called Kim Rachel's mom and why I didn't use the term adoptive mother. I feel like using the term adoptive mother is unkind to Kim and Rachel. It implies that she was something lesser than a mother in a certain sense. Not that I'm saying that adoptive mothers are lesser. I just know from my experience, when you put in those technicalities, like when somebody tells me, well, Alyssa was just your half-sister, right? Or somebody calls her my stepsister, which is incorrect. There's something about it that almost feels like it takes away from Alyssa's experience, and in this case, Rachel's experience and Kim's experience. And I had explained that she was adopted, so just continuing to say the term adoptive mother felt like too much, and like I said, just not a service to Rachel and not honoring, her life. She was clearly extremely happy with the Hansens and found her family there. She had the adoptive date tattooed on her. And if you want to learn more about Rachel and how that all came to be, I will say that if you go to the website, Rachel's Rescue website, which I'll have linked below, you can read Kim's eulogy for her on there. And it's just beautiful. And I don't know. Family is family. Family is what you make it. I just knew it was going to come up. I knew that somebody was going to reach out and say, hey, that's her adoptive mother. So I just wanted to acknowledge it here and explain why I made that choice. As far as media discrepancies go, not a ton of discrepancies. There was some confusion. It seems like about dates, like when Rachel moved in. But I think that was because earlier reporting didn't include that information, and then more information was released just a few months ago in October. So really not a ton of media discrepancies. I felt like most reporting was pretty even. I will say not a lot of people were reporting on the specific text that Rachel's fiance's father. No names not a lot of names, I should say, have been released in this case, so please forgive that as well. But not a lot of people have reported on that part yet, and I assume it's because it's rather new information. But obviously, I felt like that was pretty important to include. Now, I do have two heroes of this episode. One, the first hero I want to call out is Rachel and that 911 call, which the transcript and what was released of it is heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking, but it seems that really the bulk of the information, the best leads in this case, outside of circumstantial, evidence, came from Rachel. Her calling, somebody broke in. I do not know this person. They have already left. She was able to communicate enough to what I hope will be enough to solve this case. So Rachel is an absolute hero for making that call, for having the strength to make that call and to clearly communicate that information, which I can't even imagine how hard that must have been. The second hero of the case is Kim. Kim is so incredibly strong, and she's been spearheading this effort in the media, which is not easy to do. She's been holding the Gilbert PD's feet to the fire. She's hired this private investigator. Of course, I am sure that there's family efforts behind the scenes as well, and I'm not trying to discount that. I'm just trying to uplift Kim. She is truly doing everything she can to get Rachel's case out there, to keep it in the media, to keep people talking about it, and to keep these resources being allocated to Rachel's case. So our heroes are Rachel and Kim. And again, before we move on to the segment of hope, I just want to remind you again, please share Rachel's case. Please check out Rachel's Rescue. I really want to see this one be solved, and I'm sure at this point we all do. And every single share counts. I cannot believe that this case is not being talked about more by more people. It's just incredible to me. But let's go on to our segment of hope. I actually found this one from Nina Instead. She's a podcaster. She hosts Already Gone. You guys probably know her if you know me. She is a fantastic human, fantastic podcaster, just a fantastic person all around. But she'd shared this link in this story on a few different social media platforms, so I just wanted to give credit where credit is due. Now, I am reading from NBC4i.com. This is in Franklin County, which is in Ohio. It looks like Columbus, Ohio, and this is written by Ava Boldazar. The headline reads, DNA evidence leads to arrest in Franklin County 1992 killing of 19-year-old woman. So the article goes on to describe that, again, obviously it's been decades, but 19-year-old Amy Hooper was found beaten and stabbed to death in her Franklin County apartment, and after all these years, an arrest has been made. It looks like the perpetrator is a man named Bruce Edward Daniels. He is now 57, and he lives in Tumwater, Washington. But just a few days ago, he was indicted on charges of murder and rape in relation to this case. Now, the article's a little bit vague, but essentially it looks like law enforcement officials in Washington obtained an item discarded by Daniels. There was DNA on this object, and it was compared to the DNA found on her body, and it was a match. It looks like the extradition hearing is set for January 2025, so this is brand new. It is still developing. But again, I just think it's incredible when these cases are solved after so long. And I hope it serves as another reminder to these awful, horrible people who do these awful, horrible things that even decades later, 20, 30, 100 years later at this point, it seems, they may be able to find you. And even if they can't arrest you like they were able to arrest this man, at least the answer is known. The case will be solved in some way. Your legacy will be changed forever. So if you're a bad person doing bad things and you think you will not be caught, I just hope that this serves as a lesson that at any time they can come find you. I feel like I get so passionate during these segments of hope where I'm like, they will find you, they will. But I mean, I think it's very true. And these people who, committed these murders or whatever crime it might be so many decades ago probably never thought that, DNA technology would evolve the way that it is now. And I just think, again, that it's a good tale to tell, that maybe if you committed crime today that you think is the perfect crime, it may not be tomorrow, next week, next year, the next decade, but eventually they may just find you with technology you never knew was even conceived of at that point. Technology that wasn't even a thought in someone's mind. But as always, thank you, I love you, and I'll talk to you next time.